Eminem came up as a battle rapper. He's used to being involved in disses, beefs, and controversies. And it's fair to say that given his experience, he's definitely stacked up a lot of W's in the win column. But one of the critiques of M through the years is that he tends to get involved in beefs with artists who are not the same size as him, that don't have the same fan base, making it easier for him to win because he can just stick his stands on them and the fans themselves and the public will swing the pendulum in Eminem's favor. Lesser known opponents include Benzino, Cannabis, Whitey Ford, Nick Cannon, the list goes on. But there was a time when a controversy was building with an opponent that was at Eminem's level. Now, I'm sorry to spoil your dreams, kids, but there's a lot of things in this world that just aren't real. Santa Claus, the Easter Bunny, the Boogeyman, Kim Kardashian's butt size. The list goes on and on. And honestly, in the history of hip-hop, there's been quite a few manufactured beefs. The media, knowing that controversy sells, knowing that, the more that we can create drama around a situation, it will get us more clicks and more attention, they tend to take stories and really run wild with them. And while that did happen in this situation, there were definitely moments within it that could have really escalated and could have turned into one of the biggest, most talked about battles of all time. So first and foremost, we're going to have to step back in time. Walk with me, ladies and gentlemen, into the year 2000. At this moment, Eminem had released the Slim Shady LP in 1999. Absolutely blew up. Hi, My Name Is was taking off. The features and collabs with Dre, everyone was talking about this man, Marshall Mathers. So what does he do? He follows up that success. He shows that it's not lightning in a bottle, and he gives us the critically acclaimed Marshall Mathers LP2, which is absolutely skyrocketing in sales, blowing out in its first week, hitting platinum, hitting double plat, just taking off, and it seemed like Eminem couldn't be stopped. And there was no one who could compete with him at this exact moment in time. This was his year. Well, a little bit earlier in that same year, there was this smaller, unknown artist from Universal Records. His name was Nelly. Nelly dropped a song and video called Country Grammar in February of that year. And honestly, it didn't do anything at first. Nobody really talked about it, and Universal was busy promoting a lot of other artists on their roster. They weren't really focused on Nelly. They didn't give him a big budget. The album that he had put together was done by his producer right there in St. Louis. There weren't any high-level features. The only feature that there was Lil Wayne, and at the time, Lil Wayne was not popping. Nelly even commented later in an interview that they could only afford Lil Wayne. They were actually going for Juvenile, which is ironic at that time, considering what happened with Weezy, and we know the takeoff from there. So you have this unknown dude named Nelly who drops Country Grammar, and it's not really moving units. It's not really doing anything. And then all of a sudden, before things really could go viral, well, he had a moment that went viral. The media outlets, MTV, started to play his video. More people started to watch that video and share it with their friends, with their neighbors, with people they didn't even like, because it was hot, it was popping, it was hilarious, and it was a really catchy tune. Hell, I remember Country Grammar coming on in the car, everybody playing it, wherever you went outside, people had the windows down. That summer, it was absolutely exploding and taking off. And what happened was, because of the success of that, all of a sudden Universal just went, oh shit, we need to direct our resources and our attention to this dude who is taking off, who's already on our roster. And that's what they did. And then you come to find out that Nelly wasn't just a one-hit wonder. When people started to unpack the Nelly album and look at it, they started to realize there's a lot more hit singles on here. I mean, if you're in a club to this day and Ride With Me comes on, if you don't sing along to that chorus, I don't know what you're doing with your life. So thanks to all this buzz, this man from St. Louis, which is not known to be a hip-hop area, this man who has zero cosigns, really. I mean, let's face it, Eminem had Dre. Eminem had a lot of high-level collabs and people that were pushing him. He had a huge marketing machine behind him. Nelly was swept under the rug. Nelly was someone that no one expected to be as big as he was. And yet, pretty much on his own, this man just absolutely took off. And even his album did something unprecedented at the time. Normally, there's this huge marketing buildup and buzz to an album and then a release. And then once you drop that album, everybody goes and buys it within the first week. And that's when it does the most numbers. Well, Country Grammar didn't actually do the most numbers in the first week. It started to take off weeks afterwards. And as things started to build and as more radio singles were released and the buzz increased for Nelly, that's when it really started to move units. Eventually hitting plat, double plat, taking off and doing numbers. I mean, it even sat on top of the hip-hop Billboard charts at #1, over top of Eminem for a few weeks in July. So all of a sudden, you have this summer like really heating up. You've got the Marshall Mathers LP, which has been doing numbers. You got everybody talking about Eminem. But now you have another artist and another rapper who is starting to match Eminem, who is starting to go leg and leg with him in the race to move units. This man is doing huge, ridiculous numbers. And yes, I'm going to reveal how old I am. You know, back in the days when we used to walk 15 miles in the snow, ride around on horse and buggy, the only way that we could really see what was popping and buzzing wasn't necessarily through a bunch of Facebook shares or memes or what's going on socials. We couldn't go on to YouTube. We had what's called TRL. Fuck my life if I'm still not haunted by Carson Daly's voice. But Total Request Live was what was popping, what was buzzing. And the thing is, at the time, there weren't a lot of rappers, a lot of people from hip hop being able to show up and be on that top list. Eminem, sure, he was running around like he owned MTV at that time, just doing all kinds of absurd, ridiculous shit. But now all of a sudden, Nelly gets to be a TRL. Nelly gets to sit on top of the charts, to sit on top of the list. Everybody knows who Nelly is. And remember what we talked about? Beef, drama, media spinning things? Well, media sees Eminem climbing. They see Nelly climbing. Well, this is a great opportunity to start spinning a narrative, to start pitting them against each other, to start creating stories, to start creating rumors that there is a beef and there is a clash and there are things brewing between these huge superstar rappers. Now, this is where things start to fall into the realm of rumor, and a lot of stuff can't be objectively proven as true. But one of the rumors at the time was that Eminem was getting ready to, launch and unveil his group D12. At the same time, Nelly was getting ready to launch and unveil his group, the St. Lunatics. D12 was at a photo shoot. St. Lunatics were at a photo shoot via The Source. And apparently, there's some mutterings going on in the D12 crew. They were kind of talking a little bit of shit. They were slagging off the St. Lunatics. They were slagging off Nelly. And there were some other reporters who passed information on to Eminem, who passed stuff on to Nelly that, Eminem said this, he said this, she said that, and all of a sudden we have a Mean Girl situation happening. But there's no smoke without fire. And there was definitely some tension and some things going on. Because on TRL, Nelly did go on live television. And he felt like he had some shit that he needed to air out right here.
Well, how do you feel about Eminem? What's up with that? How's your feelings on that?
Well, Dirty, I don't too much know nothing about Dirty, you know what I'm saying? But he be having some sly little comments about me on himself, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, but me, I don't play with candy, you know what I'm saying? I eat M&Ms, flat out, you know what I'm saying? I don't smash on them like that, So,
official drama on TRL.
I mean, that's the most obvious low-hanging fruit possible, playing off of Eminem's name and eating candies and not eating M&Ms. Personally, I like the ones with the peanuts inside, but maybe I'm going off on tangents right now.
But whatever it is, you know what I'm saying, I just don't think Duke planned on coming to tour to St. Louis, that's all. That's all. He just limited himself, but it's all great.
Oh, I mean, Nelly basically did what Trick did with Detroit and tried to declare a no-fly zone for Eminem in St. Louis. That's big. That is a big threat at this time. Do not come through my town. Do not come and play on your tour while you're promoting your album. You will not be welcome. I mean, that is shots fired. And the thing is, again, context is so important. This is happening at TRL, right? There's a lot of teenage girls running around TRL. There's a lot of people that are being exposed to rap for the first time. I got no fucking clue what rap beef is and what really can go on and escalate. So they hear this and it just shocked people. It really turned a lot of heads. And obviously the news, wow, it was like they just caught a huge fish. So they had to reel this one in and really start to pump up this beef and start to pump up this controversy. But that moment was a huge moment because Nelly obviously felt a certain type of way. You wouldn't come out and make direct threats to Eminem, who is huge at this time, and Nelly's huge too. You got to remember, it's not like Nelly is a no-name artist. Not like Nelly is down here. At this moment in time, they're pretty close to each other in terms of brand recognition, in terms of popularity. So here is finally someone closer to Eminem's level that this could escalate to, because Eminem, we know, has zero issues getting involved in beefs. If you just say one thing bad about Eminem, MGK talking about Eminem's daughter, Benzino saying things, talking shit about him. I mean, the list goes on and on. It could just take one moment in one situation. Eminem will take that and he will just absolutely just blow it wide open, get the Vaseline out. We are going all in on this situation. So back to the rumor mill. At this time, there was this album. I remember, man, these are like the days of Napster, the days of pirating stuff. No, I'm not talking about riding around on a fucking pirate ship in the Chesapeake Bay. I'm talking about like pirating music. But it was huge, and there was a lot of people that were searching for this track called Detroit Grammar. And people were taking it, they were making like remixes of Eminem's voice, like releasing old freestyles, like, oh, this is a Nelly diss. But to this day, I will say that all the different stuff that I've heard relating to Detroit Grammar, I have never actually heard the track Detroit Grammar. I'm not sure that it truly exists or if it just lives in the forest like a mythical, magical unicorn. But to this day, there is no Detroit Grammar that you can find online that will be released. But obviously, Eminem had to do something about the situation. So as the story goes, when Nelly and the St. Lunatics were on tour, instead of having a no-fly zone for Eminem down in St. Louis, well, there became a no-fly zone through Detroit. And opportunities for promotion and appearances and shows were getting dropped within the Michigan area and anywhere near it. Nelly's like, hang on, what is going on in this situation? So they reach out to Paul Rosenberg. Now, Eminem has instructed Paul in the situation, and Paul explains what's going on. Like, you know, you went on TRL, you said some ish about our artist, you upset Eminem, you threatened him, and this is what it is. You know, this is quid pro quo. This is us just firing back, just clapping back in this situation. And what a lot of people say is that Eminem and Nelly actually got together, they had a conversation, and they kind of reconciled their differences. And that's why it rode off into the sunset and it phased out. But does it actually end there? Because in 2002, we have another huge monumental release. Eminem drops The Eminem Show. Nelly also drops his sophomore release, Nellyville. And guess what? Nellyville, much like Country Grammar, moves weight. Does absolutely ludicrous numbers. He is one of the only rappers at this time that is still staying toe-to-toe and still finding a way to keep up with Eminem's level of success. And things start to spin again. The rumor mill starts to take off. You remember that TRL conversation with Nelly? You remember all that went down? Is it really over? Also, at this time, things are starting to build between Eminem and The Source and Eminem and Benzino, which we have covered on this channel. I will put links to it below. But Eminem drops a mixtape, which is still one of my favorite mixtapes to this day, with DJ Green Lantern, The Invasion. We get so many great tracks. You get Nail in the Coffin. You get all these Benzino disses. But there's also a diss on there in The Invasion Part 1, The Realest, where Eminem references Nelly. And this is where I got to put some things into historical context. I've seen some videos try to cover this beef and paint it as, you know, Nelly made the TRL quote and then Eminem clapped back right away with this track. No, that is not true. There was a 2-year difference between this, right? This is a different context and a different situation now. But this is still Eminem referencing Nelly. And there's still some interesting breadcrumbs that are left here. Let's check it out.
But I ain't trying to get too intricate into it. I'm just trying to give you a little hint for your own benefit. Cause then it's gonna get to the point where it escalates into some other shit. And I'ma flip, then I'ma get to stomping in my Air Force Ones. Won't be able to tell if it's 2 pairs or it's one. It's just gonna feel like so many feet kicking you. You think Nike just made these in the cleats in the shoe.
Stomping in my Air Force Ones. Nelly dropped a song, Air Force Ones. So when Eminem says stomping in my Air Force Ones, he's directly referencing and alluding to that Nelly track. And a lot of people read this as this is Eminem clapping back at Nelly. This is a threat and a warning to Nelly. What's going to happen? You think you're going to stomp in the Air Force Ones? No, you were going to get stomped out. You were the one who was going to get kicked down. And if you look at the rest of this verse and the rest of this track, it is a big warning about getting involved in beef with Eminem, about what he brings to the table lyrically and him flexing his lyrical muscles. Now, there's a lot of people who turn around and will say that this is Eminem's ultimate clapback. This is him dealing with the Nelly situation. As the media tries to spin this up again, this is a way for him to address the rumors, and this is warning shots fired at Nelly. That's why he references Nelly. That's why he puts it into that context. But on the other side of things is the fact that there are a number of Benzino disses on this mixtape, and Eminem is just starting to get involved really with the Source and all that beef and all that controversy, and we know how that spins into the Ja Rule beef, and we know how it takes off and escalates from there. Again, we've covered it on this channel. So from my perspective and analysis, I see this as Eminem firing warning shots, not at Nelly, but firing it at Benzino. And what he's doing is he is using the Nelly situation for reference, because it's a similar situation where there's a lot of talks, a lot of rumors, a lot of he said, she said. So Eminem is basically showing, do you really want this? maybe you should take the route that Nelly took, where, you know, we squashed it behind the scenes. We took care of it. It didn't go any further. But if you want this war, if you want this arsenal that I can bring you, then I am happy to deliver this, you know, Amazon next day right to your doorstep. And I think that's probably the most correct context with which to interpret these lyrics and to look at that lens for this situation. I mean, if this came out in 2000, shortly after Nelly had said the stuff that he said on TRL within the summer, maybe if this dropped in the fall instead of the fall of 2002, I would say, yeah, you've got more of a line and more of a story for this being a direct Nelly reference. But for me, I think it's a way for Eminem to still kind of deal with Nelly's situation because they still have a little bit of that rivalry. They still are going toe-to-toe right now on releases. Eminem Show versus Nellyville. Nelly is one of the few artists that is at that high altitude and high level in hip-hop at this moment in time. So it's a way for Eminem kind of address that, deal with that a little bit, but also take that situation and use it to warn off Benzino. But what do you guys think? I mean, Eminem is no stranger to his beefs. Is this fired at Nelly, or is this just kind of left as a reference to it and then directed elsewhere? Let me know in the comment section. Also, I hope you enjoyed a little bit of story time with Knox. I like to mix it up on the content on here on the channel, do different types of video, do different types of things. As always, let me know if you're enjoying it. We'll be doing a lot more, just, yeah, unique, different stuff, talking about things. If you have recommendations or analysis you want to see me break down, then please comment down below. All right, guys, subscribe to the channel. I love you. Stay safe, stay positive. It's Knox Hill. I'll catch you again.